Megan Harris sat alone in the corner of the academy cafeteria, her food tray untouched. Around her, dozens of alien cadets filled the massive hall with noise. They spoke in languages that sounded like clicking insects, rumbling earthquakes, and musical chimes. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few seemed to be made of living crystal. Megan was used to being the odd one out. She watched a group of Drexian cadets at the center table. They had 4 arms each and stood nearly 8 feet tall. Their leader, Vrika, was demonstrating some kind of combat move. The other Drexians cheered as she lifted a training dummy with 2 arms while her other 2 arms made striking motions. Vrika's orange eyes scanned the room and landed on Megan. She said something in her native language and the whole table laughed. Megan knew what they were laughing about. Humans were weak. Humans were slow. Humans had no natural armor, no claws, no venom, nothing that made them dangerous. Earth had only joined the Galactic Coalition 15 years ago, and most species still saw them as the new kids who didn't belong. "Don't let them get to you," said a voice beside her. Kevin Porter slid into the seat across from her. He was another human cadet, tall and broad-shouldered with an easy smile. "Freak is just mad because you scored higher on the tactical exam." "That doesn't matter here," Megan said quietly. "This place values strength, speed, combat ability." Kevin shrugged and bit into something that resembled a sandwich. "We've got other advantages." "Like what?" "We're stubborn. We don't quit." Megan finally picked at her food. It was supposed to taste like chicken, but the Academy's food synthesizers never quite got it right. "That won't help if I can't pass the combat trials. I'm the slowest in our class. My reaction time is barely acceptable." "But you notice things," Kevin said. "I've seen you in the simulators. You're always watching, always thinking." Before Megan could respond, the cafeteria's alert system chimed. Everyone fell silent. A holographic image appeared in the center of the room. It showed Commander Zethriel, the Academy's head combat instructor. He was a Kresh, an insectoid species with a hard black carapace and compound eyes that seemed to see everything. "Attention all second-year cadets." The commander's voice buzzed through translation devices. "Your next major exercise has been scheduled. You will conduct a hostile boarding operation on a derelict freighter. This will test everything you have learned about combat, tactics, and teamwork. Squad assignments will be posted tonight. Prepare yourselves." The hologram disappeared. The cafeteria erupted in excited conversation. Boarding operations were considered some of the most dangerous missions in space combat. This would be the first time many cadets faced combat scenarios that felt real. Vrika stood up at her table. "Finally, a chance to show what real warriors can do." Her friends roared in agreement. Megan felt her stomach tighten. This was exactly the kind of test where humans usually failed. Direct combat, hostile environment, need for quick reactions. All the things she wasn't good at. That evening, Megan found herself in the Academy's library. Most students were celebrating or preparing their gear, but she needed to think. The library was nearly empty, except for a few studying aliens and one other human. Officer Jake Morrison sat at a terminal in the back corner. He was the human liaison at the Academy, a veteran who had served in Earth's colonial defense forces before joining the Coalition military. He looked up as Megan approached. "Cadet Harris," he said with a nod. "Couldn't sleep either?" "I wanted to review combat tactics," Megan said. "The boarding operation." Jake gestured to the seat next to him. "Smart. What are you looking for?" "Ways to make up for being slow," Megan admitted. "Every simulation shows humans have the longest average kill time against hostile targets. We're just not fast enough." Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled up a different file on his terminal. It showed an old Earth video, grainy and ancient. A group of humans with primitive weapons were tracking something through tall grass. "Do you know what humans used to hunt?" Jake asked. "Back before we had technology?" "Animals," Megan said. "For food. Not just any animals. Mammoths. Giant creatures that could crush us with one step. We hunted them with sharpened sticks." He played the video. The humans in it moved slowly, carefully, following tracks in the dirt. "We weren't faster than them. We weren't stronger. But we were smarter. We were patient. We could track them for days until they were too tired to fight back." Megan watched the ancient humans work. They didn't rush. They didn't attack head-on. They waited for the right moment, the right place, the right weakness. "Other species here evolved to fight," Jake continued. "They developed claws, armor, speed. They became warriors. But humans evolved to hunt. There's a difference." He closed the file and looked at her directly. In a fight, the strongest usually wins. In a hunt, the smartest wins. Megan thought about that as she left the library. The words stayed with her through the night and into the next day when squad assignments were posted. She was assigned to Squad 7 with Kevin, a crystalline being named Zilthar who could create energy shields, and Vrika, the Drexian warrior, made her displeasure clear immediately. A human female, Vrika growled when they met for their first planning session. This squad is doomed. We work with what we have, Zilthar said in its chiming voice. The crystal being didn't seem bothered by anything. The mission parameters are clear. We enter the derelict freighter, clear our assigned section of hostile drones, and secure the area. Simple, Kevin said. Go in, shoot the drones, win. Megan studied the schematic of the freighter that had been provided to them. It was an old cargo vessel, full of narrow corridors, cargo bays, and maintenance tunnels. The hostile drones would be using the ship's layout against them. What's your plan, human? Vrika asked mockingly. Will you ask the drones to wait while you think? Megan ignored the insult and kept studying the schematic. She zoomed in on certain areas, noted the environmental systems, the power distribution, the structural weak points. We should use the environment, she said quietly. What? Vrika leaned forward. The ship has systems we can use. Power conduits, gravity plating, life support. If we fight the drones directly, we're playing their game. They're machines built for combat. And what do you suggest? Zilthar asked with what might have been curiosity. Megan looked up from the schematic. We turn the ship into a weapon, Vrika laughed. Ridiculous. Warriors face their enemies head-on. But Kevin was leaning over the schematic now, following Megan's line of thinking. She's right. Why shoot a drone when you can drop a blast door on it? Why chase it down a corridor when you can vent that corridor into space? Coward's tactics, Vrika spat. Smart tactics, Zilthar corrected. I approve of this approach. They spent the next 2 days preparing. While other squads practiced their shooting and rehearsed their combat formations, Squad 7 studied the freighter's systems. Megan memorized every access panel, every emergency control, every environmental hazard. She ran through scenarios in her mind, imagining how drones would move and react. At night, she couldn't sleep. She kept seeing the ancient humans in Jake's video, moving through grass with patience and purpose. She thought about what he had said. Humans were hunters. They didn't need to be fast if they were smart. They didn't need to be strong if they were prepared. The morning of the exercise arrived. Megan stood with her squad in the docking bay, suited up in light combat armor. Around them, other squads were checking their weapons and psyched themselves up. The Drexian squad was doing some kind of war chant. The Kresh squad moved in perfect silence, communicating through pheromones. Squad 7 was quiet. Vrika kept flexing her forearms, eager for action. Zilthar's crystalline body hummed with stored energy. Kevin checked his rifle for the 3rd time. Megan just breathed slowly and reviewed the ship's layout in her mind one more time. All squads, prepare for deployment. Commander Zethriel's voice came through their communication devices. Remember, the drones are advanced. They will learn from your tactics. Adapt or fail. The bay doors opened. One by one, squads launched toward the derelict freighter floating in space nearby. When it was their turn, Megan felt her heart beat faster, but her hands were steady. They docked at their assigned entry point. The airlock cycled open with a hiss. Beyond it, the freighter's corridors stretched into darkness. Emergency lighting cast red shadows on the walls. Move out, Vrika commanded, taking the lead position. Kevin followed, then Zilthar. Megan came last, her weapon held low, her eyes scanning everything. The first corridor was empty. Their boots echoed on the metal floor. Megan noticed the temperature was cold, colder than it should be. That meant the environmental systems were damaged or tampered with. Contact in 30 meters, Zilthar reported, its sensors detecting movement ahead. Finally, Vrika growled. She charged forward, ready for a fight. Megan hung back. She watched the walls, the ceiling, the floor. She noted a maintenance hatch to their left, sealed. An access panel to their right, dark. Above them, a coolant pipe ran along the ceiling, frost forming on its surface. The first drone appeared. It was humanoid in shape, made of dark metal with glowing red sensors. It raised its weapon arm toward Vrika. Vrika roared and fired her heavy rifle. The drone's shields absorbed. 3 months passed at the academy. Megan's life changed in ways she hadn't expected. Other cadets no longer mocked her. Instead, they gave her space in hallways. Conversations quieted when she approached. Some looked at her with respect, others with something that looked like fear. The nickname stuck. Death Murmur. It followed her everywhere. She tried to act normal, but the attention made her uncomfortable. She hadn't tried to scare anyone. She had just completed the exercise the best way she knew how. But the footage from that day had been analyzed and reanalyzed. Instructors used it as teaching material. Combat theory classes discussed her tactics. "You've become famous," Kevin told her one day during weapons training. "I don't want to be famous," Megan replied, adjusting her rifle's sights. "I just want to learn." Too late for that. Kevin nodded toward a group of younger cadets watching her from across the range. "You're the human who made drones act afraid. That's going to follow you." Megan took aim at her target and fired. Perfect center shot. "Drones don't get afraid. Everyone says so, but they acted like it." "That's what matters," Kevin paused. "Jake says the galaxy has never seen humans in real combat. Not against serious threats. We've only fought small conflicts, border skirmishes. Nothing that really tests us." "Maybe that's a good thing," Megan said. She reloaded and fired again. Another perfect shot. "Maybe," Kevin agreed. But he sounded doubtful. The alarm changed everything. It came during the night cycle. Red lights flashed throughout the academy. Emergency tones blasted through every corridor. Cadets stumbled from their rooms, confused and frightened. "This is not a drill," Commander Zethriel's voice announced. "The Vrex Dominion has launched attacks on Coalition border outposts. Multiple stations have fallen. All senior cadets are being given emergency commissions. Report to Briefing Room 7 immediately." The briefing room was chaos. Hundreds of cadets crowded inside, speaking in dozens of languages. Fear filled the air like smoke. Megan stood with Kevin, trying to understand what was happening. The Vrex Dominion was a hostile empire that controlled 20 star systems on the Coalition's border. They were known for being ruthless, violent, unbeatable in ground combat. Jake Morrison entered the room, now wearing a major's insignia. His face was grim. The holographic display behind him showed a star map with red marks spreading across Coalition territory. "The Vrex have been planning this for months," Jake announced, and the room fell silent. They hit 15 outposts simultaneously. Most garrisons were slaughtered. "We need every available soldier at the front lines. All of you are being commissioned as junior officers and deployed immediately." A Kresh cadet spoke up. "But we haven't finished our training." "There's no time," Jake said bluntly. "The Vrex don't wait. You'll learn on the job or you'll die." Those are the only options. Megan felt her heart pounding. Real combat, not simulations, not exercises. Real enemies who wanted to kill her. "The Vrex are apex predators," Jake continued. "They come from a death world where only the strongest survive. They're faster than most of you, stronger with natural weapons. Standard combat doctrine doesn't work well against them. They've never lost ground combat. Never." The room filled with worried whispers. "Squad assignments will be posted in 1 hour," Jake said. "Get your gear. Say your goodbyes. Ships depart at dawn." As the crowd dispersed, Megan stood frozen. Kevin touched her shoulder. "You okay?" "No," she admitted. "I'm scared." "Me too," Kevin said. "Everyone is." Jake approached them as other cadets filed out. "Harris, Porter, you're both assigned to Firebase Echo on Kessler 7. It's a forward position that's currently surrounded. The Vrex have been conducting night raids. We've lost a lot of good people there. Why send us there?" Megan asked. Jake looked at her directly. "Because the commander there specifically asked for you." "For me?" "Captain Tyler Wade. He's human, former Earth Marine. He saw your exercise footage. He thinks you might have skills the Vrex haven't encountered before." Jake lowered his voice. "The Vrex use psychological warfare. They take prisoners alive and leave bodies as warnings. They make their enemies afraid before they even fight. Wade thinks maybe it's time someone turned that around." The trip to Kessler 7 took 3 days aboard a Coalition transport ship. Megan spent most of that time studying everything she could find about the Vrex. What she learned made her fear grow. The Vrex were 7 feet tall with thick armored hides. They had claws that could cut through standard body armor. Their reflexes were incredibly fast. They could see in darkness and had heightened senses. Evolution had made them perfect killing machines. "They sound unbeatable," said Zilthar, who was also assigned to Firebase Echo. The crystalline being had volunteered to stay with Squad 7. "Nothing's unbeatable," Kevin said, but he didn't sound convinced. Megan studied footage of Vrex attacks. The aliens moved with deadly grace, striking from shadows, using fear as a weapon. Standard coalition tactics failed against them. Overwhelming firepower just made them angry. Defensive positions only delayed the inevitable. But as she watched, Megan noticed something. The Vreks were confident. Too confident. They never expected their prey to fight back effectively. They were used to enemies being afraid. They had never faced something that hunted back. Firebase Echo sat on a barren planet with 2 moons. From orbit, Megan could see the base was surrounded by rocky terrain perfect for ambushes. The Vreks controlled everything outside the defensive walls. The transport landed inside the base's shield perimeter. As the ramp lowered, Megan saw the garrison. Maybe 200 soldiers, mixed species, all looking exhausted and scared. Burn marks scarred the walls. Several buildings were damaged. Bodies were being carried to the medical center. Captain Tyler Wade met them at the landing pad. He was a tall human with gray in his hair and scars on his face. His eyes were hard. "Welcome to hell," he said without preamble. "The Vreks hit us every night. They're testing our defenses, taking soldiers, leaving pieces of them outside our gates. We've lost 40 people in 2 weeks. What's the plan, sir?" Kevin asked. "Survive until reinforcements arrive," Wade said. "That's it. That's the whole plan. When will reinforcements arrive?" Megan asked. Wade looked at her with tired eyes. "No idea. Could be days. Could be weeks. Could be never." He gestured toward the base. "I'll show you around. Tonight you're on watch duty." The Vreks like to test new arrivals. The base was grim. Soldiers moved with nervous energy, jumping at shadows. The alien species looked at each other with suspicion. Trust was breaking down. Fear was winning. That night, Megan volunteered for watch on the northern wall. Kevin protested, but she insisted. She needed to see how the Vreks operated. The darkness was complete. Kessler 7's suns had set hours ago, and clouds blocked the moons. Megan's night vision gear showed the rocky terrain and green tones. Nothing moved out there, but she knew something was watching. 2 hours into her shift, the screaming started. One of the sentries on the eastern wall. Megan heard weapons fire, then silence. Alarms blared. Soldiers rushed to the eastern wall. Megan stayed at her post on the north wall. Something felt wrong. The attack was too obvious. Too loud. She scanned the darkness in front of her. Still nothing, but her instincts were screaming. The attack on the east was a distraction, then she saw it. A shadow moving among shadows, something large and fast. Heading not for the wall, but for the command center behind her position. It had already gotten inside the perimeter. A Vreks infiltrator, 7 feet of muscle and claws moving silently through the base while everyone was distracted. Megan didn't call for help. She didn't sound an alarm. Those would just alert it that it had been spotted. Instead, she quietly climbed down from the wall and followed. The Vreks moved through the base like it owned the place. It killed a soldier who spotted it so fast and quiet that no one else noticed. It was heading straight for the command center where Wade and the other officers were coordinating the defense. Megan tracked it, staying in shadows, matching its path. She noticed how it moved. Confident, predatory. It thought it was the hunter here. She needed to change its mind. When the Vreks passed through a maintenance area between buildings, Megan made her move. She didn't attack it. She didn't shoot at it. She just made a small noise. A scrape of metal. The Vreks froze. Its head turned toward the sound. Megan had already moved. She was 20 feet to the left now, invisible in the shadows. The Vreks approached where the sound had come from. It found nothing. Its clawed hands flexed. It was confused but not worried. Another noise. This time behind it. The Vreks spun around fast as lightning. Nothing there. Megan was above it now, having climbed onto a container. She watched it search. She could see its frustration growing. Where was the prey? She made another sound. Then another. Each time from a different location. Each time disappearing before the Vreks could spot her. The alien's confident movements became uncertain. It had come here to hunt. Now it was being hunted and it didn't understand how. Megan led it away from the command center deeper into the maintenance areas. The Vreks followed the sounds she made, trying to catch whatever was making them. It didn't realize it was being herded until too late. She guided it into a storage bay with no other exits. The Vreks entered and stopped, finally realizing this was a trap. Megan sealed the door behind it. They were alone in the darkness. The sun rose over Firebase Echo, casting long shadows across the barren landscape. Megan stood on the northern wall, looking out at the rocky terrain where the Vreks hid. She hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the Vrex infiltrator's face, felt its claws trying to reach her, heard its confused fear. She had killed before in simulations, but this had been real. Real blood, real death. The weight of it sat heavy in her chest. "You did what you had to do," Captain Wade said, climbing up beside her. He handed her a cup of coffee. Real Earth coffee somehow. "That thing would have killed a dozen of our people if you hadn't stopped it." "I know," Megan said. She took the coffee but didn't drink it. "The Vrex will come again tonight," Wade continued. "They always do, but now they know we have you. That might make them hesitate. Or it might make them send more," Megan said quietly. Wade nodded. "Yeah, that too." He looked at her carefully. "I watched the footage from your academy exercise. I watched what you did last night. You fight different than anyone I've ever seen. You hunt. My instructor said humans evolved to hunt. It's in our nature." "Maybe," Wade agreed, "but most soldiers forget that. They learn to fight like everyone else. Stand in lines, use overwhelming force, follow standard tactics." He gestured at the base below them. "We've been doing that here for 2 weeks. It hasn't worked. The Vrex keep killing us." Megan finally sipped the coffee. It was bitter and strong. "What are you asking me, sir?" "I'm asking if you can teach our people to fight like you, to hunt like you." Wade's face was serious. "We've got maybe 150 soldiers left. Mixed species. Most of them are scared. The Vrex have broken their confidence. But if they could learn even a little of what you do..." "I don't know if it can be taught," Megan admitted. "I just do what feels natural." "Then teach them that. Make it feel natural to them too." By noon, Wade had assembled 30 volunteers. They were a mix of species. Some humans like Kevin, a few Kresh, several Quellans. Even 3 Drexians, though none of them were Vrika. They stood in a cleared area near the center of the base, looking uncertain. Megan stood in front of them, feeling awkward. She was 19 years old. Most of these soldiers had more experience than her. What could she possibly teach them? "I'm not going to teach you how to fight," she began. "You already know how to do that. I'm going to teach you how to hunt." "What's the difference?" asked one of the Drexians. "Fighting is about strength against strength. Speed against speed. You meet the enemy head-on and see who's stronger." Megan paused. "Hunting is about patience. About using everything you have, including the enemy's own confidence against them." She spent the next hour showing them how to observe. How to notice details. The way light reflected off metal could tell you where someone was hiding. The sound of breathing could give away a position. The smell of lubricant meant a weapon was nearby. "The Vrex are faster than us," Megan explained. "Stronger. Better armed naturally. If we fight them their way, we lose. So we don't fight their way. We make them fight our way." "How?" Kevin asked. "We turn their strengths into weaknesses." Megan pulled up a holographic display of the terrain around the base. "The Vrex like to move fast through these rocks. They use speed and surprise. But fast movement makes noise. Leaves tracks. Creates patterns." She showed them how to identify these patterns. Where the Vrex would likely approach from. What paths they would take. How their confidence made them predictable. "Humans used to hunt animals that were bigger and faster than us," Megan continued. "We couldn't outrun them. We couldn't overpower them. So we tracked them. We learned their habits. We set traps. We waited until they made mistakes." One of the Kresh soldiers clicked its mandibles skeptically. "The Vrex don't make mistakes." "Everything makes mistakes when it's scared," Megan replied. "And everything gets scared when it becomes prey instead of predator." Over the next 3 days, Megan trained them constantly. She showed them how to move silently, how to use shadows, how to make sounds that would mislead, how to be patient even when their instincts screamed to run or fight. She taught them about the environment. Every base, every building, every piece of terrain was full of things that could be used. Pipes that could burst, doors that could trap, lights that could blind, gravity plates that could be controlled. "Never waste energy fighting when you can let the environment fight for you," she said repeatedly. But the most important lesson was about fear. "The Vrex use fear as a weapon," Megan explained. "They want you scared. They want you panicking. When you're afraid, you make mistakes. You run when you should hide. You shoot when you should wait. So we should not be afraid?" asked a Quellan soldier. "No," Megan said. "Fear is good. Fear keeps you alert, but you don't let it control you. You control it." And then, she paused, You make them afraid instead. How do we make Vrex afraid? The Quellan asked. They fear nothing. Megan smiled slightly. It was the same smile she had worn in the academy exercise. They fear nothing because they've never been hunted before. We changed that. The Vrex attacked again that night. But this time, things were different. The attack came from the eastern approach as usual. 6 Vrex warriors moving fast through the rocks. The base's sensors detected them. Alarm sounded. Soldiers rushed to defensive positions, but Megan's trainees didn't rush to the walls. They moved to specific positions she had marked earlier. Places where the environment could be controlled, where sight lines converged, where the Vrex would have to pass if they wanted to breach the base. The Vrex reached the wall and began climbing. They were impossibly fast, claws finding purchase on metal. They expected gunfire. They expected resistance. Instead, they found prepared ambush points. One Vrex climbed over the wall directly into a section where gravity plates had been modified. It fell disoriented. Before it could recover, 3 soldiers shot it from elevated positions. The Vrex's natural armor was strong, but coordinated fire from multiple angles found weak points. Another Vrex tried to breach through a maintenance door. The door opened easily, exactly as it was supposed to. The Vrex charged inside, confident. It found itself in a corridor with no cover. Soldiers at the far end opened fire. The Vrex tried to retreat back through the door. It was already sealed. The remaining Vrex tried to adapt, spreading out to find different approaches. But everywhere they went, they found the same thing. Prepared positions, controlled terrain, soldiers who didn't panic and run but waited patiently for clear shots. And they heard whispers, human voices in the darkness speaking calmly, describing what was about to happen, making it clear that the Vrex weren't attacking. They were walking into carefully prepared traps. By dawn, all 6 Vrex were dead. Firebase Echo had lost no one. The Vrex didn't attack the next night, or the night after that. They're changing strategy, Wade said during a briefing on the 3rd night. Our scouts report increased Vrex activity in the region. They're gathering forces. How many? Megan asked. At least 30, maybe more. Wade looked grim. They're going to try to overwhelm us with a major assault. The room fell silent. 30 Vrex could potentially overrun the base. Even with Megan's tactics, that many enemies at once would be devastating. We need to stop thinking about defense, Megan said slowly. Everyone turned to look at her. They're gathering forces. That means they're concentrated in one area. Predictable. You're not suggesting we attack them, Wade said carefully. Not attack. Hunt. Megan pulled up the terrain map. They're confident again. They think numbers will win. But gathering in one place makes them vulnerable. Vulnerable how? Kevin asked. Megan traced her finger across the map. They're in the ravine system north of here. Limited exits. Good cover for them, but also... She zoomed in on a specific area. These cliffs are unstable. The geology reports show old mining operations weakened the rock structure. Understanding dawned on several faces. If we could trigger a collapse, Wade said slowly, we could trap them. Or at least split their forces. But we'd need to be out there, one of the Drexian soldiers said. In the darkness. In their territory. Yes, Megan agreed. We'd need to go hunting. Wade was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. How many people? Small team. 4, maybe 5. Anything larger will be detected. I'll go, Kevin volunteered immediately. Me too, said Zilthar. 2 of the Drexian soldiers from Megan's training group stepped forward. We will come. Wade looked at Megan. This is your plan. You lead it. That night, 5 figures slipped out of Firebase Echo. Megan led with Kevin and Zilthar behind her. The 2 Drexians, whose names were Crix and Tala, brought up the rear. They carried minimal gear, light weapons, demolition charges, and confidence born from 3 days of training. The terrain was treacherous in the darkness. Rocks and ravines everywhere. Perfect ambush country. This was the Vrex's domain, but Megan moved through it like she belonged there. She didn't use night vision gear. She let her eyes adjust naturally, using starlight and the faint glow from Kessler 7's distant moons. She moved slowly, testing each step, listening to the wind. The others followed her example. They had learned not to rush. Patience was more important than speed. They found the Vrex war camp after 2 hours of careful approach. It was in a deep ravine exactly where scouts had reported. Fires burned, and Megan could see dozens of Vrex warriors preparing for battle. The The corridors of the derelict freighter grew darker as Squad 7 moved deeper inside. Megan could hear other squads through the communication channel. The Drexian squad was making quick progress, smashing through drones with overwhelming firepower. The Kresh squad moved with coordinated precision, their hive mind tactics allowing them to attack from multiple angles simultaneously. Squad 7's section was different. It was quieter. They entered a large cargo bay. Containers were stacked 3 stories high, creating a maze of metal walls and shadows. Their sensors showed multiple drone signatures ahead, but the exact positions kept shifting. "They're moving," Silthar reported. "Pattern suggests they are setting an ambush." Vrika gripped her rifle tighter. "Let them try. We'll crush them." "Wait," Megan said softly. She was studying the cargo bay's layout. Above them, she could see the magnetic clamps that held the containers in place. To the left, an exposed power junction sparked occasionally. The floor had gravity plating that could be controlled from access panels. "We don't have time to wait," Vrika snapped. "We need to finish this fast." "Fast isn't always best," Megan replied. She moved to one of the access panels on the wall and began entering commands. "Give me 30 seconds. For what?" "To change the battlefield." Kevin understood first. He positioned himself to cover Megan while she worked. Silthar created a protective barrier around them. Vrika muttered complaints in her native language but took up a defensive position. Megan's fingers moved across the panel. She had memorized the freighter systems. She knew that cargo bays like this one had multiple safety protocols: magnetic containment for the cargo, emergency gravity controls, automated fire suppression systems. All of them could be accessed, all of them could be used. A drone emerged from between 2 containers, its weapon charging. Vrika fired immediately, but the drone dodged behind cover. "They're learning," Kevin said. "Getting smarter." "Good," Megan said. She finished entering the last command. "That means they think they can win." She pressed the final button. The cargo bay's gravity plates deactivated in a specific pattern. 3 of the massive containers lost their magnetic locks and began to float. The drones, not expecting the sudden change, scrambled to adjust. Megan reactivated the gravity in a different section. The containers crashed down exactly where she wanted them. 2 drones were crushed instantly. A third was trapped under a container's edge. "Now," Megan said. Her squad moved forward. With the containers repositioned, there was only one clear path through the cargo bay. The drones were forced to come at them from a single direction. No more ambushes. No more multiple angles. Silthar's shields held the front. Kevin and Vrika fired at any drone that appeared. But it was Megan who controlled the fight. When a drone tried to flank them, she activated a fire suppression system, filling that corridor with foam that clogged its sensors. When another tried to climb above them, she triggered an emergency bulkhead that sealed it away from the group. The drones began to change their behavior. Instead of attacking, they started trying to avoid Squad 7's position. Megan noticed the shift immediately. "They're retreating," she said. "Impossible," Vrika said. "Drones don't retreat. These ones do." Megan moved forward, tracking the drone's movement on her scanner. They were falling back to a more defensible position, regrouping. "That means they're afraid," Kevin said slowly. Megan didn't respond. She was already thinking 3 steps ahead, planning how to corner them in the next room. The next area was an engineering section. Pipes and conduits covered every surface. The drones had chosen it as their fallback point because it offered many hiding places. But Megan saw it differently. All those pipes carried something: coolant, fuel, compressed air, electrical power. Each one was a potential weapon. She hand-signaled her squad to stop. Then she moved forward alone, slowly, carefully. Vrika started to object, but Kevin held up a hand to stop her. "Let her work," he whispered. Megan entered the engineering section with her weapon lowered. She didn't look like she was hunting. She looked like she was just exploring, but her eyes were constantly moving, noting every detail, every shadow, every sound. A drone moved in the darkness above her. Its sensors locked onto her. Easy target, alone, vulnerable. It prepared to fire. Megan shot the power conduit next to it. Electricity arced through the drone's systems. While it was stunned, she shot a coolant pipe. The drone froze. She finished it with a single shot to its core. 3 seconds total. Another drone tried to attack from the side. Megan was already moving. She didn't run. She walked, calm and purposeful, leading the drone into a section of the room she had already identified. When it followed, she triggered a manual override on a pressure valve. Compressed air exploded outward, slamming the drone into the wall hard enough to crack its armor. One shot. Core processor destroyed. 4 seconds. The remaining drones in the engineering section stopped attacking. Their programming was trying to understand what was happening. This target moved wrong. She wasn't panicking. She wasn't rushing. She was something their combat algorithms hadn't encountered before. Megan continued through the section. Each drone that tried to engage her died quickly, efficiently, almost silently. She used pipes, she used panels, she used the very structure of the ship. Her weapon fired rarely. When it did, she never missed. By the time her squad caught up to her, the engineering section was clear. How did you... Vrika couldn't finish the sentence. Megan checked her ammunition counter. She had used less than a dozen rounds. The ship does most of the work. You just have to know where to push. They moved to the final area of their section, a long corridor that led to an observation deck. This was where the exercise was supposed to end. Clear the corridor, secure the deck, mission complete. But something was wrong. I'm reading 20 drone signatures ahead, Zilthar said. That's more than twice what we should be facing. The others must have driven them into our section, Kevin said. They're all concentrated here now. 20 drones in a straight corridor, Vrika said. This will be a hard fight. Megan studied the corridor. It was 50 meters long, no side rooms, no cover. The drones had position at the far end. Anyone who entered would be caught in a kill zone. We don't fight them there, Megan said. We make them come to us. How? Zilthar asked. Megan pointed to a maintenance access near their position. This tunnel runs parallel to the corridor. Comes out behind the observation deck. Kevin and I will go through there. When we're in position, Vrika and Zilthar make noise at this end. Draw them forward. That's a distraction tactic, Vrika said with disgust. Not honorable. It's smart, Kevin said. I'm with Megan. Zilthar's crystal body flickered. I calculate this plan has an 87% success probability. Better than a direct assault. Vrika growled but agreed. Megan and Kevin entered the maintenance tunnel. It was cramped and dark. They had to crawl for most of it. But Megan had studied the ship's layout. She knew exactly where it would come out. They emerged on the observation deck behind the drone position. Through the deck's windows, stars shined in the darkness of space. Below them, through the floor grating, they could see the 20 drones positioned to ambush anyone coming down the corridor. Megan tapped her communicator once. The signal for Vrika and Zilthar to begin, shouting echoed from the corridor entrance. The drones reacted immediately, focusing all their attention on the noise. Several moved forward to engage. Megan aimed at a support beam she had noticed earlier. It wasn't structural, just decorative, but it would work. She shot it once. The beam fell, hitting 3 drones and creating confusion. While the drones tried to identify this new threat, Megan shot another beam. Then another. Each shot was precise, calculated to cause maximum disruption. Kevin followed her lead, targeting key points in the drone formation. They weren't shooting the drones directly. They were shooting around them, collapsing their defensive position piece by piece. The drone's AI programming struggled to adapt. Threats from 2 directions. Environment becoming unstable. No clear target to focus on. Then Vrika and Zilthar charged into the corridor from their end. With the drones confused and scattered, the fight became simple. Vrika's 4 arms wielded 2 rifles, firing with devastating accuracy. Zilthar's shields protected them from return fire. Megan and Kevin cleaned up the drones that tried to retreat onto the observation deck. The entire battle was over in less than 3 minutes. When the exercise ended, alarm tones announced that Squad 7 had completed their section. Timing appeared on everyone's displays. Squad 7 had the fastest time in Academy history. 0 casualties, minimal ammunition used, lowest collateral damage to the ship. They stood together on the observation deck, breathing hard. Even Vrika looked impressed. I have never seen combat like that, the Drexian said slowly. You fight like... I don't know what. Not fight, Megan said quietly, looking out at the stars. Hunt. Back at the academy, the debriefing room was full. All the squads had gathered to watch Commander Zethriel review the exercise footage. The Drexian squad had performed well with brute force tactics. The Kresh squad had shown excellent coordination. Several other squads had competent showings. Then the commander played Squad 7's footage. The room fell silent as they watched. What appeared on the screen didn't. 2 weeks after the night raid, Coalition reinforcements finally arrived at Firebase Echo. 3 warships dropped into orbit, bringing fresh troops, supplies, and a delegation of high-ranking officers. Among them was Major Jake Morrison, looking more tired than Megan remembered. Captain Wade gathered the garrison in the main assembly area. 200 soldiers stood at attention, the ones who had survived. They looked different now, more confident. The fear that had haunted their eyes was replaced with something harder. Admiral Chen, a human from Earth's Pacific Fleet, stood on the platform beside Wade. She was an older woman with white hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Firebase Echo was expected to fall, the Admiral began. Intelligence estimated you had days, maybe a week at most. The Vrex assault force gathering in this region should have overwhelmed you easily. She paused, looking across the garrison. Instead, you broke them. A Vrex warpack fled from this position. That has never happened in recorded history. Whispers moved through the crowd, pride mixed with disbelief. We didn't break them alone, sir, Wade said. We had help. He gestured to Megan, who stood with her training group. Cadet Harris developed tactics that turned the Vrex's strengths against them. She taught us how to hunt. Admiral Chen's gaze settled on Megan. I've reviewed the reports. I've watched the recordings. What you did here is being analyzed by every military command in the Coalition. She stepped down from the platform and walked directly to Megan. How old are you, Cadet? 19, sir, Megan replied. 19, the Admiral repeated. And you've accomplished what veteran commanders couldn't. She turned to address the whole garrison. The Vrex have conquered 12 Coalition worlds in the past month. Our standard tactics don't work against them. They're too fast, too strong, too vicious. But here at Firebase Echo, you found a way. Jake Morrison stepped forward. Command is implementing new strategies based on what happened here. Training programs are being revised. Tactical doctrine is being rewritten. He looked at Megan. We need you to help lead that change. Me, sir? Megan felt overwhelmed. You and anyone else who learned what you learned here, Jake said. He addressed the garrison again. The Coalition needs soldiers who understand that fighting and hunting are different things. Who can teach others to turn environments into weapons? Who can make our enemies afraid instead of us being afraid of them? Admiral Chen nodded. We're forming specialized units. Small teams trained in these new tactics. They'll be deployed wherever the Vrex are causing the most damage. She looked back at Megan. I'm offering you a choice, Cadet. You can return to the academy to finish your training, or you can accept a commission and help build these new units. Megan thought about it. The academy seemed like years ago, not months. She remembered being the scared cadet who everyone underestimated. Now she had killed Vrex in single combat. She had led raids into enemy territory. She had taught soldiers to survive. I'll help build the units, sir, Megan said. Good. Admiral Chen smiled slightly. Your first assignment is to select your team. Over the next 3 days, Megan interviewed volunteers. Dozens of soldiers wanted to join her unit. Humans who had trained with her at Firebase Echo. Aliens who had learned to think like hunters. Even some of the Drexians, including Crix and Tala, wanted to continue working with her methods. She chose 20 people. Humans mostly, but also a few other species who had shown they could adapt. Kevin was her first choice. Zilthar volunteered immediately. The Quellan soldier who had questioned her about fear asked to join, saying he wanted to learn more. They trained together for a week, refining tactics, learning to move as a single unit. Megan taught them everything she knew. How to read terrain, how to use psychology as a weapon, how to be patient when every instinct screamed to fight or run. But the most important lesson was about changing perspective. The galaxy sees the Vrex as unbeatable, Megan explained during one training session. Apex predators from a death world. But that's not the whole story. Yes, they're dangerous, but they evolved on a world where they were always the hunters. They've never been prey, and we have? Asked one of the human soldiers. For millions of years, Megan said. Humans weren't always at the top. We were prey for saber-toothed cats, for giant bears, for crocodiles. We learned to survive by being smarter, not stronger, by thinking differently, by turning our weakness into advantages. She pulled up a holographic image of a Vrex. Look at them. See the confidence in how they move. They expect to win. That confidence makes them predictable. It makes them vulnerable. So we use their confidence against them, Crick said, understanding. Exactly. We make them think they're hunting us. Then we show them they were wrong. News from other fronts was grim. The Vrex had conquered 2 more coalition worlds. Thousands of soldiers were dying in conventional battles. The coalition was losing ground despite superior technology and numbers. Admiral Chen called Megan to a strategy meeting. The room was filled with high-ranking officers from multiple species. They looked frustrated and worried. The Vrex are pushing toward the industrial world of New Jakarta, Admiral Chen explained. If they take it, we lose our primary shipbuilding capacity in this sector. We have forces there, but they're barely holding. What's the defensive setup? Megan asked. One of the Kresh commanders displayed a tactical map. Standard perimeter defense, fortified positions, air support. Everything by the book. Megan studied the map. She saw immediately what was wrong. The Vrex don't fight by the book. These positions are too rigid, too predictable. The defenders are sitting still, waiting to be attacked. What would you suggest? The Kresh commander's tone was skeptical. Stop defending. Start hunting. Megan highlighted areas on the map. These are natural ambush points. These are where the Vrex will stage their assaults from. Instead of waiting at the base, we put teams here, here, and here. Small units that can move fast and hit supply lines. That's not standard doctrine, another officer objected. Standard doctrine is losing, Megan replied bluntly. The Vrex expect standard doctrine. They've learned how to beat it. We need to do something they don't expect. Admiral Chen studied the map. You're talking about asymmetric warfare, guerrilla tactics. I'm talking about hunting, Megan said. Humans did it for millions of years. We tracked mammoths across continents. We brought down prey 10 times our size. We can do it again, just on a bigger scale. The room was quiet. Finally, one of the older human commanders spoke. I fought in the Mars Rebellion. We used tactics like this. Hit and run. Use terrain. Make the enemy afraid. It worked then. It'll work now, Megan said with certainty. Admiral Chen made her decision. Take your team to New Jakarta. Coordinate with local forces. Show them how to fight your way. If it works, we'll expand the program. And if it doesn't work, Jake Morrison asked quietly. Then we lose New Jakarta and probably the war, the Admiral said grimly. Megan's team deployed to New Jakarta 2 days later. The planet was Earth-like with thick forests and mountain ranges. The local garrison was exhausted from constant Vrex raids. Their commander, Colonel Lisa Hayes, was a battle-scarred veteran who looked at Megan with open skepticism. You're the death murmur everyone's talking about, Hayes said. You're younger than my daughter. Yes, sir, Megan replied simply. They say you make Vrex afraid. I make them uncertain. Uncertain enemies make mistakes. Hayes took them to see the defensive positions. They were exactly what Megan expected. Strong fortifications, heavy weapons, clear fields of fire, everything designed for conventional warfare. How long before the next Vrex attack? Megan asked. They hit us every 3 days like clockwork. Next attack is tomorrow night. Good, that gives us time. Megan turned to her team. We're not staying here. We're going out there. She pointed to the forest beyond the base perimeter. That's Vrex territory, Hayes said. Not anymore, Megan replied. She split her team into small groups. Each group took a specific zone in the forest. They didn't build defenses. They built traps. They studied the terrain. They found places where the Vrex would have to pass through, places that could be turned into kill zones with a little preparation. Kevin's group rigged explosive charges on trees that could be dropped across paths. Silthar used its abilities to create false energy signatures that would draw Vrex attention. The Quellan soldier, whose name was Milo, set up acoustic devices that could project sounds in different directions. Megan personally scouted the likely approach routes. She found Vrex tracks, fresh ones. She studied how they moved through the forest. Fast but confident. They didn't bother hiding their trails. When night fell, Megan's team was ready. They weren't in the base with everyone else. They were out in the forest, invisible, patient. The Vrex came exactly as expected. 20 warriors moving through the trees toward the base. They had done this before. They knew the path. They knew the base's defenses. What they didn't know was that the forest had changed. The first Vrex triggered a simple tripwire, not connected to explosives, connected to lights. Bright floodlights that suddenly illuminated the entire path, blinding their night-adapted eyes. While they were confused, trees fell. not randomly but precisely placed to create barriers and force the Vrex into specific paths. Then the sounds started. Human voices from multiple directions, whispers carried on speakers. "We see you. Behind you. Run." The Vrex tried to regroup, but